Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
Several commenters telling me that you guys would enjoy this story. About 6 or 7 months ago, my neighbor got a drone. I don't mind people having hobbies, but for some reason, he insisted on flying like the biggest jerk possible. He would hover in front of other houses and windows trying to race cars going down the road. And worst of all, he had a habit of flying his drone in my fenced backyard, buzzing over my dog, diving low just over my dog's head before circling around to do it again. My dog isn't small, he's about 70 pounds and malamute. But the drone terrified him, and I was worried what would happen if it hit him. I asked my neighbor several times to please not fly in my yard and explained that it was scaring my dog. He basically told me to get lost and laughed in my face. When it still continued, I called the police. Unfortunately, there wasn't much they could do other than ask him to please not fly over my house/property. Finally, in late December, it happened. My dog got tired of this crap and managed to catch the drone right as it was diving towards him. He shredded the drone. The thing was just a jumbled mess of wires and plastic. The neighbor was pissed. He stormed over to my house swearing and threatening me, which I ignored. A week later, I got a summons to small claims court, and he wanted $900 for the cost of his drone and an additional $300 for supposedly denying him access to his property. The drone sat in my yard for a couple hours before it was retrieved. Screw that. He could have killed my dog. I don't have kids or a girlfriend. I just have my dog who has been my best friend for the past 7 years. That dog has moved with me 3 times. Was there when I graduated college, saw me buy my first house and my first new car. I love my dog. Went to legal advice and got some great help from them. Turns out him suing me was the best thing to ever happen. When we got to small claims court, the judge basically laughed away his claims that I had intentionally trained my dog to attack his drone. Little did I know I was prepared. I had dozens of photos of my yard showing it was impossible for him to accidentally fly that low to my dog, videos of him harassing my dog in the past, and I had saved all my medical bills from taking my dog to the vet. $700 for an x-ray, check. Another $250 to sedate him during. Why not? I don't want him to be uncomfortable. Full dental exam with tooth cleaning/repair, $400. Then there was a cost of anti-anxiety meds and a secondary checkup, with food for a week in case his teeth were hurt, and extra just for good measure. In the end, the jerk ended up owing me almost $2,000, and now is being investigated by the FAA for not having a registered drone and violating several FAA regulations concerning drone flight. Too near an airport, too close to other people, out of sight of the operator and way above the maximum altitude. Enjoy never being allowed to fly drones again. I never mistook this job for low risk, but I never imagined it could potentially get me thrown in jail. We got a pretty sketchy delivery call at a late hour. Our FOH is constantly slammed with everyone desperate to eat at a table again now that the vaccine's out, and they were in the weeds. So I grabbed the phone. Before I could even finish our standard greeting, the guy just goes, "Yeah, it's Mac. I'm ordering a pizza." I'm not much for small talk either, so I'm rolling with it like, "Good for you, Mac. Pick up or delivery?" Just rattling off the standard questions. He answered the first few, but he seemed hesitant or confused. He argued with some other guy behind him for a second, then got back on a line and ordered like normal, as though none of the preceding stuff had even happened. Whatever. I caught his delivery and out I went. It was a standard large pizza. No toppings, no extras. They were going to pay cash. I pull up, and it's a scary rundown, sparsely populated apartment complex. Mostly pro-college students in there now though, so I wasn't too concerned or anything. I get to the door and when I knock, it eases open a bit. This didn't seem like the ideal neighborhood to keep your door unlocked, but not my business. I called in, "Hey, pizza." There was no response. I called a little louder, "Got your pizza out here." And an alarmed voice from inside was like, "Shh, come in. Just come in." Ah ha ha. No, I get that request weirdly a lot, like everyone from sketchy apartment bros to suburban soccer moms asking me to bring the pizza to the dinner table because they are busy. Some people even pulled this during the pandemic, but it's a long-standing company policy, a damn good one that's entering the home for any reason whatsoever is a hard no. So I sent back, can't do that, but I can leave it out here if you don't want to come to the door. Just need payment first. There was a silence and some shuffling and then a door shut and locked. And the guy was like, "What do you mean payment first? That's not what we agreed on." Through the closed door. I was standing there wondering if this was the first pizza this man had ever ordered in his life. Because payment first is basically implied, right? But I'm not looking for any confrontations or trying to be a jerk, so I just tell him, "Yeah, so our store policy is payment first." And he erupts screaming, "That's not what Mario and I discussed." So then I thought maybe he was trying to pull some kind of scam on us because nobody at our store is named Mario. And I'm the one who took his order, so I know what was discussed. I decided if they weren't going to pay, I'd made a reasonable attempt to deliver, and I could safely head out now. As I'm preparing to do so, another guy, looking back now, I realize he didn't even have a box, walks very confidently up to the door, pounds on it like a heavy bag, and grunts, "Pizza's here." I didn't know if this dude in the apartment had ordered 2 identical pizzas from different shops, or if our pizza had taken long enough that he thought we weren't coming and called someone else, or I had the wrong apartment, or what was happening. But it was weird enough that I decided to just go. Especially because the pizza guy number 2 was looking at me with a real intense stare. Way more malice than I'd ever be able to muster on behalf of defending the turf or our joint spies. He said something like, "Can I help you?" or "Wrong apartment," or something along the lines of, "Cordial, go the hell away." But I was already on my way out and didn't really process it. I went back to the shop, told the story to the chef, we laughed and guessed at what it could have been to drive this man to order 2 pizzas at once. I didn't think about it again for several weeks. Those several weeks later I was in the shop and a couple cops walk in. Not in uniform, but they had badges. They asked me if I'd been at such and such apartment complex on such and such day, and I was like, that was weeks ago. I have no idea where I was. So they were all like, "In that case, you wouldn't mind coming down to talk to us about what you do remember." But I was like, "Really nothing." And they said, "Well, that's fine. Let's talk anyways and see if there is something you might not realize is relevant that comes back to you." And all this stuff prodding me. I told him, "I'm working right now, but I can come later next week maybe." But they were really insistent, which should have set off some flags in hindsight. They were like, "Well, this is a really pressing matter and we'd appreciate if you came in right now. We will explain it to your boss so there won't be any problems. You'll really be helping us out." There not be able to chat to me at work should have been the first red flag. But I knew I had not done anything illegal, so it didn't cross my mind that I could be in any sort of trouble or have a reason to worry. Especially because when I got to the police precinct, everyone was extremely friendly, like I was actually doing them a favor. They didn't throw me in a cell or try to intimidate me or anything. They brought me in a nice air-conditioned conference room and gave me a comfortable chair and asked if I wanted anything to drink, and really just kind of shot the crap with me for 20 to 30 minutes. To this day, I'm still confused about this. I think they even offered to order food, if I remember right. I declined even the most basic offers because I was anxious to get back to my shift. Didn't need my co-workers getting any wrong ideas. I played along and made nice because they did get the okay from my boss to go as long as I needed. But in the back of my mind I was like, didn't you say this was urgent? They are running short-staffed at work just so we can trade hot takes on a college baseball World Series? Eventually though, and I think they were trying to be subtle but they definitely weren't, they shifted to asking me about what they really brought me in to talk about. They asked me about if I'd made a delivery to the apartment complex, and I'd obviously racked my brain between when the cops first arrived and then, so I told them actually I had. That I wasn't sure if it was exactly the day they were quoting me, but it was around then. I figured they would ask about the delivery but didn't want to get ahead of their questions. I figured a brain dump of information would make me come off as guilty. Plus, I didn't want to accidentally tell them more than they were expecting to hear and land myself there longer. But instead of asking like any of the questions I expected they would ask, they said, "And how long had you known the guys you were delivering to?" Kind of confused, I responded, I didn't. I could see that my answer disappointed them, but it was the truth. They collected themselves pretty quickly though. There were two detectives, the same two who'd come for me in a store, and one kept insisting on the facts as they saw them, and the other kept trying to bend things in my favor. So the bent guy was like, okay, sure, not like y'all are best friends or anything, but you at least knew them as customers, right? I wasn't sure what knew them as customers was supposed to mean because to me, it was synonymous with not knowing them. So I said no. They changed topics. They asked how long the delivery had been planned for. I told them everything had to be ordered the same day unless it was 4 or more pies, and I didn't remember exactly when they called, but per store policy, wouldn't have been more than an hour before it was delivered. Probably sooner, based on where they were relative to the store. We went back and forth like this for way longer than I was anticipating. Them asking me questions that seemed to imply I knew something, me feeling super confused and giving them visibly disappointing answers, reminding them I knew nothing. Eventually they seemed pretty frustrated and they were basically like, stop lying to us, man. Cut the crap. Your friends rolled on you. It's done. And I'm sitting here thinking, I have friends? But of course, in all seriousness, I was shocked by the change of tone because I had no clue what they were talking about. And I told them so, and they were both like, come on man, you're just embarrassing yourself at this point. With one trying to reassure me that if I just told them what I knew, they could still help me, and the other saying that I was too stupid to seize this last chance. Well, no reason to sit around and be spoken to like that. I got up to leave. And before I knew what was happening, I was being merandized. It was like a horror movie nightmare playing out in slow motion in front of my eyes. So I stopped with my, I want you to know that I want to get back to work, but I'm going to be chill out of courtesy, demeanor, and lost my crap at that point. I kept really forcefully without coming off as erratic, or so I hoped, insisting that I did not even know what they were talking about, like I've been saying all along. They were not having any of it. They kept saying, videotape doesn't lie, man. You want to see the tape before you lock yourself into another lie? The jury's gonna eat this up. Jury, I nearly crap myself. I don't even turn right at red lights half the time. Plus, you had video all this time you were grilling me to remember what happened, and you could have just shown me a video? What the hell? I knew I was in over my head at this point. A million thoughts were swirling around and I was so overwhelmed and scared. I finally said what I should have said way back at the beginning, though I did not say it nearly assertively enough, because I was trying to, act innocent, not seem guilty, not make things worse than they somehow already become. I was like, should I be talking to a lawyer? And they said, do you want to talk to a lawyer? Did you do something that would necessitate the aid of an attorney? And the other guy's like, if you want a lawyer, we will get you one. But I have to say, that does not look good on you. And I shouldn't have believed them, as my dad has now drilled into my brain, you never talk to police, only your lawyer does. But at the time I thought, yeah, I guess asking for a lawyer does make it seem like I did it. Crap. Then they showed me enhanced frames of the video and timestamps, and they are saying all this stuff. It was really a blur at that point, but one thing in particular stood out. They said something that they had already said a time or two before, but it hadn't totally sunken in until then. They alleged, your buddies thought this would be some quick money. They thought it would be real slick to order a pizza instead of just calling and saying bring the stuff up. At this point, it had been established they thought I'd transported some large sum of ill-gotten cash into this apartment, and that we wouldn't be suspicious or we wouldn't follow up. I know you're a good guy. You didn't know what you were getting yourself into. But if you're not honest with us, we can't help you. I had told him repeatedly about the other guy who showed up to supposedly deliver a pizza. I even pointed him out on the footage. Unfortunately, the cameras didn't have audio, so they couldn't hear me arguing with the people in the apartment over the measly few bucks. Or more importantly, hear this other guy say pizza. Because the other guy didn't have a pizza box and I did, they didn't believe me that I was in the pizza part of this operation. To recap, apparently what they had uncovered from the real criminals is they were meant to take receipt of some money. The guys inside the apartment were told something like, that afternoon you'll get a pizza. to try and prevent anyone from saying anything incriminating on paper. These dumb freaks in the apartment did not understand the instructions and actually ordered a real pizza instead of just waiting for their cash delivery to show up. I'm pretty certain all of that arguing I'd heard on the phone was one of the other criminals asking something to the effect of, "Are you sure you're supposed to order an actual pizza?" Because what else would they have been arguing about right then? So once I connected all the dots, it was a matter of proving my pizza delivery was legitimate. They had tried to get a record of the delivery when they talked to my boss, but we're a small shop. We only keep tickets through the end of the week, and we just sign a piece of paper confirming our tip amount every night. These guys wouldn't have factored in since they didn't pay. I didn't have anyone but the criminals to corroborate my story, and there was nothing in it for them to exonerate me, or they would have done it by now. But then I remembered. The chef. I told him all about this delivery. I begged the cops to talk to him and reminded them I'd followed them right out of the store before I'd known what this was about, so they could trust he was totally untainted. Sure enough, he recounted it exactly as I told him, and told the police. The stories matched near identically. The cops went through our phone logs, but these guys had called in their order from a burner, so that was of no help. I figured the chef would be enough, but after I'd been in the precinct for nearly 8 hours total, they said they were going to go ahead and hold me until they could verify I didn't go with a decoy pizza and somehow give them money another way, or until they found a real delivery guy. They never would, because they didn't believe me that he was the other guy outside of the apartment on the video without a box. I don't know if he had the cash taped to him or what, but the cops were convinced it couldn't be him, because he didn't have any bag, box, or something to hold the money. Finally, realizing this was not a misunderstanding that was going to go away, all these years of watching Law & Order kicked in and I asked for my phone call. I got my dad on the line and he of course said don't say another word and showed up with an attorney who had me out within an hour of his arrival. I was formally cleared of all the involvement the next day. Barely got an apology. None of this will show up on my record or anything, but still, you'd think they would be a little more remorseful about what they put me through. My boss gave me a couple paid days off, having seen how serious it was questioning the chef and searching the phone logs and everything. I think he was just glad I wasn't an embezzler or a serial murderer or otherwise a criminal, because for the longest time all they would tell him is I was involved in a situation and they needed information.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.